Today, I'm recreating poses from the covers of Spider-Man comics using action figures. From the iconic covers to menacing foes, let's see if these figures have what it takes and let the challenge begin. Let's kick things off by returning to where it all began. Amazing Fantasy number 15, Spidey's debut. I've got my hands on this awesome Marvel Legends Spider-Man figure, which is one of the best Spideys they've made yet. But wait a minute, Spider-Man is swinging with someone, so perhaps we could throw another figure into the mix. There isn't a figure for this guy, so to substitute, I'm gonna use this Peter Parker as our random character. Oh, and I can't forget about Spidey's web wings for that signature touch. Getting into the nitty-gritty of this pose, I'm tweaking his arms, giving them that mid-swing flare. And then it's all about adjusting those legs, giving it a wider stance, bent knees, all those things that are seen on the cover shot. I'll make a few more tweaks here and there, and then I'll pose the figure for Spidey to hold. In the cover shot, we can see the character's arms and legs are in different positions to show that there's some motion going on, and so that's what I want to replicate here as best possible. With both of the figures posed, I can set them up for our first pose of the video. What do you all think? Now let's fast forward to when Spidey's rocking that classic red and blue suit. I'm choosing to recreate this shot from the cover of the Amazing Spider-Man number 200 for our second pose. Now I'm just gonna call it out here because I know some of you in the comments are gonna be like, dude, that's the wrong hand, what are you doing? But unfortunately, when Hasbro made this particular Spider-Man figure, they didn't include wall crawling hands, so I could either use another fist or a web shooting hand. I'm sticking with the web shooting hand as it has a bit of that spread finger look of the splayed hands that we see in the shot. I'll push the left arm back and bring the right arm forward, but also try to add a slight curve to it for accuracy, and luckily I can do that thanks to the joints that this figure has. The next big step will be setting up the legs. This figure was designed with some great articulation, so that part of the task was a breeze. A few tweaks here and a few there, and we're golden. Let's keep diving into the brighter, more colorful world of early Spider-Man comics with the Amazing Spider-Man number 100. Now while I could keep using the Spider-Man from the previous pose, I'm opting not to because the suit's colors are a bit too dark compared to what we see in those earlier comics. So instead, I'm gonna use this Marvel Legends figure based on the 90s animated series, and this one has some pretty accurate colors to what we see in the earlier comics. However, the head included with the figure doesn't quite match the look from the comics. I'm going to swap it out with the Amazing Fantasy figure's head, which I think provides a more accurate look. To get this pose just right, I'll need to bend that left arm in, make sure his gaze is locked straight ahead, and give his upper body a subtle twist for that authentic feel, and also to see a bit of the spider emblem on his back. While we're at it, let's also get those toes into their crawling position. The right leg seems to be raised higher than the left, but we need this figure to stay balanced on a surface when we finish the pose. I know doing this means I may lose a few accuracy points, but I still believe this is a solid web crawling pose that captures the look from that comic shot. Let me know what you all think in the comments. Spidey has an epic gallery of foes, so let's bring a villain or two into the mix. The next pose is from the cover of the Amazing Spider-Man number 44, where Spidey faces off against the Lizard. The first thing I'm going to do is capture Spidey's leaping pose so the Lizard can look up at him in frustration. The most important details would be making sure his head and spider symbol were visible, and I'll also need to make sure his web shooting hands are tilted back with a slight twist. Next up, we'll pose our angry foe, the Lizard. This figure right here is an absolute beauty, and this head sculpt captures his art style with perfection. Just look at that intense gaze, that shock. It's the face of someone who's heard what's brewing for Whatnot Con. This April 11th to the 14th, the biggest virtual comic convention is coming to Whatnot. Introducing Whatnot Con. Gone are the days of standing in line for hours and sold out tickets, and say hello to an epic experience from the comfort of your own home. During this event, you can tune into the Whatnot app to unite with over 1,400 exhibitors, including fan favorite artists like Rob Liefeld, Todd McFarlane, and more. Plus, you can catch live appearances like the original cast of X-Men the Animated Series, or even snag yourself over 20 con exclusives like this X-Men 97 first issue or reprint of the Amazing Spider-Man number 252. It doesn't just end there though, because I'll be live for the festivities as well on April 14th at 6:30 p.m. EST, giving away some Spidey items and more. And if you're no stranger to collecting action figures, you know how addicting this hobby can be. You'll want to buy something during Whatnot Con, so to help you out a bit, if you download the Whatnot app via the link in my description, you'll score yourself $10 to shop on the app. So get ready for the best virtual experience yet, and I'll catch you all at Whatnot Con. After some slight adjustments, the poses are ready to go, and here's how they turned out. It's time to tackle our fifth pose inspired by a classic scene from the Amazing Spider-Man number 46, featuring none other than Spidey's adversary, the Shocker. In this shot, we have Spidey evading Shocker's blast while mid-air, so let's try to bring that action to life. Starting with our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, I want a pose that captures his agility and quick reflexes. I'll need to get those hands crossed over each other just right while ensuring the figure's back arches naturally, flowing seamlessly into the leg's position. It's all about creating that perfect curve to convey Spidey's flexibility and also keep a natural look to it. Now onto the shocker. We need to have him crouching slightly, unleashing his signature blast aimed at the web-slinger. Not only does this figure have an impressive likeness of Shocker, but its articulation allows for some decent posing. Let's see how our recreation of this stacks up. Now, I've been using the classic suit for a while, but I want to use two of my favorite Spidey suits in a speed round. I have Cyborg Spider-Man and the sleek symbiote suit, so let's get to it. Starting with Cyborg Spider-Man, I've selected this variant comic book cover for Edge of Spider-Verse number 2. This figure comes with all the right accessories, but the limited articulation poses quite the challenge. I wish I was able to tilt this figure to the side a bit to add more curve to the pose, but I found a look that I was confident in, and this is how it turned out. Bringing in the symbiote suit, I wanted to try this pose from Marvel Team Up number 141. Unlike Cyborg Spider-Man's action figure, this one has much better range and articulation, and that's because it uses the same body as the Spider-Man figure we used in the second pose of the video. So recreating this comic book pose was no problem at all. Just like Peter Parker or Eddie Brock, I've become a bit attached to the symbiotes. I mean, posing this thing just feels so good, so let's try another pose. I'm choosing this iconic shot from Secret Wars number 8. As I expected, this pose was the easiest to recreate. The most critical details that needed my attention were having the legs twisted inward and bent, and then spreading the arms out with the hands angled. One last touch I made was tilting the head to the side and down as seen on the cover, and after some quick touch-ups, my pose was complete. For my final pose, I wanted to go big, and what better way to do that than with the iconic work of the Todd Father. I'm talking about the cover of The Amazing Spider-Man number 300. Let's start by moving the arms out of the way to pose the legs. Once I'm done with that, I'll position the left arm to the back of the figure, give him this custom web effect for his right arm, and continue the posing process. Now, a key element of this iconic pose is the fancy webbing behind him. I have this long piece of custom webbing I'll bend for a similar design. Paying close attention to the placement of the webbing, you'll see it's behind his forearm, so to capture that look, I had the idea to plug his hand through a gap in the webbing. It needed some more adjustments after this, but a few moments later, the pose was ready. And there we have it, 9 poses from Spider-Man comic book covers. What was your favorite pose I tried in this video? While you're at it, let me know which figures you'd like to see me use in the next posing video, and subscribe for more action figure goodness. If you want more posing goodness, you can check out the previous videos in this series, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.